Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out my latest video. Now, today's video is going to be talking about the upcoming matchup between Naoya Inoue versus Stephen Fulton taking place in Tokyo, Japan. This is a great fight. We got Naoya Inoue moving up in weight, challenging himself to take Stephen Fulton's crown. This is a fight you cannot miss. A boxing purist fight right here. So I'm going to get right into both of these fighters, guys, talk about what they bring to the table and ultimately who I'm picking in this fight. Let's get right into it. So when I look at Naoya Inoue, he has excellent balance, power in both hands, vicious body puncher, one of the best body punchers in all of boxing. Inoue has a good jab. He's also explosive, great counter punching as well at times. Hooks are vicious and violent. He's a guy who just fundamentally does so much things well. You'll see his defense improving every fight. His cardio and power holds up through all 12 rounds. Just a special once-in-generation type fighter. Now we look at Stephen Fulton, what he brings to the table. Stephen Fulton, Philadelphia schooled, excellent jab. You'll see him use a variation of that jab at times to keep his opponents off balance. He's a guy who fights excellent on the outside. Also, his right hand is extremely accurate. And when you look at Fulton, what's surprising about him being that he's an outside fighter, most outside fighters cannot do this, he's excellent on the inside as well. You'll see him use some uppercuts, kind of control his opponents at times, land some combinations when he's working in the clinch or on the inside. So he's really well schooled overall when I look at Stephen Fulton, and he's a very, very tough fighter, and he's a great competitor against Naoya Inoue, the monster. Now, when I look at this fight, I talk about some keys to this matchup. Let's first start out with Naoya Inoue. I think for Inoue, I think he needs to attack that body early of Fulton, kind of try to take away the legs from him. I also think it's really important to use his double jab or triple jab, which you've seen some people have success against Stephen Fulton with, to get close to him and find that mid-range where he can land his shots, because Fulton has the reach and height advantage in this matchup. So I think that's some very important keys for Naoya Inoue. Also, you'll see Fulton at times utilize that Philly shell defense. I think if he has Fulton in a spot where he's in range to try to set up that right hand, which is always effective, an overhand right in particular, against that Philly shell defense. Those are some keys, I think, for Naoya Inoue. And push the pace and make it your fight, because you saw at times Fulton got hurt versus Figueroa. And I just think if he pushes the pace, I think he has the edge in conditioning in this matchup. And I think that that's going to be a big key for him. And not to be frustrated. You saw versus Butler, Inoue got a little frustrated with some of his antics. And Stephen Fulton can definitely frustrate Inoue at times with some of the way he fights as well. Now, when I look at what Stephen Fulton, what he brings to the table, and what I think he should utilize game plan wise in this fight, be on that jab heavy throughout this fight, and make sure that you're not staying in the pocket too much, because sometimes when you look at Fulton, he loves getting drawn into a war at times, and that's not where he's going to be at his best in this fight. This is where he needs to box smart, use that reach, keep him on the outside, and ultimately land that right hand as well, and really frustrate Inoue. So if he gets close to you, clinch him on the inside, use some uppercuts, fight him a little dirty if you have to, and really don't let him get into his rhythm in this matchup. And that's what Fulton definitely has the capability of doing and the skills to do as well. So those are some keys for him in this fight. And I think also he's got to make these counter punches meaningful as well. Whenever you see Inoue, sometimes he gets a little wild when he throws some counters. Or he'll go in for the kill and he thinks he has you hurt, and he'll kind of be defensive, a little less responsible than usual. That's when I think Fulton can jump on those opportunities and land some really good shots that score and land ultimately in this matchup. And I think that on the inside, he's got to use that size advantage and kind of clinch, put your body weight on Inoue, make him feel that size, things like that throughout this fight. He's going to have to make it dirty. He's going to have to use that jab. He's going to have to stick to the fundamentals throughout this whole fight if you're Fulton, if you want to win this matchup. Now, ultimately, guys, advantages in this fight for both of these fighters. I look at Inoue. He's a better power puncher of the two fighters, no question in my opinion. Inoue also has a better hand speed as well, and he's going to be having the home advantage in this fight, being that it is in Japan. Of course, he's a Japanese fighter. And ultimately, he's a better combination puncher as well, and offensively, he's the better fighter of the two as well, just because of the variety of shots he uses, and ultimately his power and hand speed. Now, Fulton, when you look at him in this fight and you see the advantages that he'll have in this matchup, he's got the better jab of the two fighters. He's physically the bigger man. He'll have the reach advantage and also the strength advantage when it comes to inside exchanges. Ultimately, too, he's been in some real wars, so he's had to overcome more adversity than Inoue has in some recent fights where we saw him be against some really tough Mexican fighters that really pushed him to limit, and he had to recover and come back in those fights and win when you're talking about Stephen Fulton, and he did so. So ultimately, guys, my prediction for this matchup, I think Inoue wins this fight by unanimous decision. The reason why I'm saying that is because Inoue just holds too many advantages in this matchup. I think he's a little bit better than Fulton in a lot of areas in this fight. However, size disadvantage in this matchup, and he can frustrate Inoue like you saw versus that Butler fight. So that's something to keep in mind in this matchup. But I just think Inoue is going to land too many body shots. Fulton gets engaged in too many wars, and he'll trade in the pocket too much. And I think that Inoue is going to have a lot of success to the body. And eventually, if he starts mixing up combinations, he's going to have some scoring shots as well there. And I think, though, that Fulton is real tough. I think he survives and goes the distance, which is very hard to do against Inoue. But ultimately, I think he loses a decision. I think Inoue pours it on him late, almost gets a potential stoppage, but Fulton survives and continues on for another day. And credit to him.